All right. So
Hold to introduce who Bill Sally,
yeah.
who Bill Koenig is.
Okay. Tonight, y'all, this is a special Jackson and Jackson podcast. I know we normally come on Friday at 7:30, but I couldn't pass up the chance of having Bill Salas, the author of
No, 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 no. This is Bill Koenig, not Bill Salas.
Koenig. I'm sorry, William Koenig, the author of Early On. I've done I've done multiple shorts or short videos from this book on my YouTube page. And he's an awesome lecturer. He knows all about what's going on in the Middle East right now, and we welcome him. We also have my co-host Kevin, the professor, and we also have on our panel who's in transit, Pastor David. All right. Like I said, this is the Jackson Jackson podcast special broadcast. Um, I am Kung Fu CJ, as you all know me on YouTube. Um, I did promote this, so I'm hoping that I get some of my people to come on because this is early. I want to start off with um, Bill. Tell the audience just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I spent many years in commercial real estate, and about 25 years ago, the Lord called me out and said, "I want you serving me, serving Him in ministry." I had a lot of interest in Bible prophecy, and I really had a lot of interest, being in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I had this great seminaries at Dr. Warburg, Dr. Ryrie, Dr. Pentecostal at Dallas Seminary. Had some Jewish believers also that would talk about the biblical significance of the times. And he just really put in my heart that I want you serving him in Israel and the Middle East. And right after George Bush became president, um, I had the opportunity to move to Washington D.C. area, Northern Virginia, and start working out of the White House. So I spent 20 years there for both Bush terms, both Obama terms, and then the Trump term. And then when
Wow.
Biden took office, I came back to Texas, but I still go in and out of the White House for major meetings like when Netanyahu's there or people like that. But I just have a great interest in Bible prophecy, and like you guys do. And Jerusalem is God's time clock. The state of Israel is God's time clock, and we're living in the most important time of biblical history. We have a front row seat right now.
Amen. Yeah, we do.
It's exciting.
Yeah, very.
As long as you
Oh,
know, and that's the blessing of the Bible. We have God's handbook, not only for our personal lives, but also to better understand the times. And
yes.
we have to use that because there's a lot of people right now don't know what's happening, and that gives us an opportunity to share what the Jewish prophets and Jesus spoke of, and also
Mhm.
to point them to the biblical significance of the times and give them a message about Jesus. I think that's an opportunity a lot of us in prophecy need to do. We're used to being watchmen, but at the same time, we also got to be sharing the blessed hope of Jesus.
Right. That's right. Kevin, you got one?
uh, yeah. My first question is this, Bill. Okay. With all the mess that's going on with Iran right now, where do you think we are? What do you think is actually happening over there? I'm.
Well, it's interesting because Israel's, and I just have really been thinking a lot about this over since the beginning of this back in February, as well as the 12-day war last year. The enemies of Israel have been neutralized or neutered to a certain extent. Hamas has been dealt with. Hezbollah is, for the most part, been dealt with. We're still dealing with them, or Israel is. And the one with the money and the one with the funds and the one with the creative, I shouldn't say creative, but the one with the diabolic plan of eliminating the state of Israel is Iran. And they've been hit hard. You think about how masterful the IDF effort has been, and even the United States. just remarkable. But it's when you look at this is Israel's military is God's military, and when you hear a F-15 or a F-35 take off about the Lord's business, it gives you chills. Actually, it's powerful. And so, Kevin, we're living at a time when the greatest supporter of proxies that are determined to eliminate the state of Israel are being dealt with. They are really experiencing a difficult time. They're very, first of all, I'll put it this way. I think I need to reference it this way. The Persians and the Jews are very, very smart people, along with the Chinese. A friend of mine used to be at the CIA, says it's not by chance the Persians, the Jews, and the Chinese have survived the centuries because they're that smart. And they're three-dimensional chess players. Iran is. They've been dealing with peace deals for forever. For 30, 40 years, they agree to a deal, never fulfill it. Then they negotiate again. Then with less teeth, they agree to that, and nothing happens. And they're masterful. They agree to something, and then just before it's signed, they don't agree with it. It is something to watch. So what's happening right now is President Trump is putting a lot of pressure on them economically, and that's what's hurting them. Their currency against the dollar has never been weaker. They're really devastated. So, and I want to say this about the Iranian people: 75 to 85% of the Iranian people are very pro-West, pro-Israel, pro-United States, pro-Europe. It's just the 15 or 20% that run the country that are the extremists, and those people are rooting for the regime change, and that's not going to be easy because they have been planning this a long time, and they're infiltrated in every part of life as we know it. And we saw up to 35, 40,000 innocent Iranians killed a few months ago. They're barbaric. If someone stands up against them, they're hung publicly, or they're shot behind a firing squad, or they're just shot. So, with all that said, Kevin, we know that Iran's going to have a final day role. The question is, how much of a strength will they be in that final Gog Magog Ezekiel 38 and 39 coalition? But for right now, the embargo is continuing, and it's very effective. And they're having some significant financial trouble, and even having trouble meeting some of the government officials' payrolls. So it's very significant. So when you look at where things were in January to where they are today, it's dramatically different because of the United States and Israel's incredible operation. It's been very very businesslike, very professional, and very strong. It's been a strong effort.
Pat,
What I've been telling people is this: is that at present I don't think that Gog Magog is in play. That's me
No,
personally.
I agree.
Because one thing that I've gotten from Bill Salas is, when he makes a point of saying, a peaceful people with neither walls nor bars nor gates. Israel is the most walled-in community in the world, literally, and it would take a lot for them to have no walls, no bars, no gates. And so
Right.
I don't think that Gog Magog is in play, but I do think that right now Jeremiah 49 is in play, and
Yeah.
I think that I think Ezekiel 36. I think that we've been living in Ezekiel 36 for a while though, because the Jews are not they're not in belief at this point.
Yeah.
And so I think that I think that we're living in Matthew 24. I think that we're living in Ezekiel 36, and I think that Jeremiah 49 is in play right now. That's what I think.
Yeah.
What say you?
Bill Salas and I have been talking about that for 15, 20 years, and Bill really believes that the southern part of Iran, where a lot of the nuclear facilities are and other things that are buried, will be the area that gets hit the hardest and could fulfill Jeremiah 49, 35 through 39. Plus, the gospel is being spread throughout the country. Hormuz, with Iran Alive, says that there is a lot of great things happening right now. A lot of new believers inside of Iran, probably growing as fast there than anywhere else. But they have to be careful because they find out someone's converted to Christianity, their life's at risk, their
Right.
family's at risk. So,
Right.
yeah, I think that's where we are. I think this is just kind of an alignment. This is kind of giving a good punch to Iran right now. They say it take 15, 20 years to do what to basically rebuild. But the problem is they're so committed to, like the head of the Mossad said the other day, the former head, he said they're committed to a nuclear weapon, and it doesn't matter what happens in negotiations or after negotiations, that's their commitment. So we know that they'll continue uh, to attempt to have a nuclear weapon. So if that uranium gets out of the country, that's one thing, but they'll continue to pursue it. And more than likely, that uranium's so far underground, it's not. It almost they'd have to be led to it to get
Mm,
it by the Iranians, and they don't seem to want to give it up. So this could get real interesting. And they're strong. I mean, these are very proud people, and these negotiators even get PhDs in negotiations. I mean, that's. I was talking to an Iranian a few years ago in D.C. He said, "Boy, he said these guys actually get masters and PhDs in negotiations.
Are
They're
you
masters.
serious?
Oh yeah, yeah. These guys go to school, go to universities, and study the art of negotiations, and it'll drive you crazy. And they're masterful at it.
Well, I think they're just plain professional liars, and they'll say anything.
That as
And
well.
so,
They
you
they
know,
the end justifies the means, and unfortunately, that's what it is. It's
right.
ridiculous. And, I
Right.
mean, they lie all the time.
so why would it make any difference if Trump gets a piece of paper from them, just like Neville Chamberlain got a piece of paper?
I,
What difference would it make if he actually got a piece of paper saying that they would do whatever?
well,
Uh,
see,
my
that's what Iran wants to do right now. They want to say let's open up the Strait of Hormuz and we'll get to the nuclear later. Well, what that's typical. It's a typical method that they use. So Trump's saying no, no nuclear, no uranium. Uh, Stop funding the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah.
That's right.
No more ballistic missiles. So that's what he's holding out for, especially the nuclear. And of course, the clever, crafty Iranians want to say, "Well, we'll do that in phase two. Let's open the Strait of Hormuz right now." So they're hoping that the international pressure will do a number on Trump and that he'll agree to that. I don't think it's going to happen. It certainly doesn't seem to at this point. Plus, he stays in close touch with Netanyahu, and no one understands Iran or the threat of Iran more than Netanyahu. And they've been working very closely. Matter of fact, you probably saw this a couple of weeks ago. Um, Trump was very complimentary of the IDF, the military, the professionalism, the smart, and also he said they play to win. They play
Yes.
to win. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. They know
Mhm.
or know how to win, know how to win. And that was, I think, you talk about a Genesis 12:3 blessing that will bless Trump is those kind of public statements saying our ally, also letting NATO know our ally Israel is very effective and they know how to win. That's big. That was big.
Yes. I was in the Navy, and I was overseas during the Bush Senior and some of Clinton's administration. And yes, I've been to Israel twice. I've been to Egypt twice. I've been in the Persian Gulf, and yeah,
Great experience.
my
It's a
oh
whole
my
different
goodness,
world when you go there, and you have that's a blessing. I've been there as well, and there's nothing like being there. You just get a whole different perspective on the whole
yes,
neighborhood. And you were there even before the big wars. Or
right,
actually, let's see, Bush, you were after probably right around the time of Desert Storm. So
yes.
yes,
And I left at we left at the beginning. Our squadron fleet had to leave, and then I ended up going to school and going to shore duty, and I ended up at NSA. I ended up at
wow.
NSA Fort Meade, yeah, and so and I was like, they doing what? What?
That's quite an experience. My
Yeah.
gosh.
And so after that, I went straight to another. When I went to another ship because I re-enlisted, and sure enough, they was like, "Well, we got to do this training, we got to do this training, and then we're going off to a 6 month cruise." I'm like, "Wait a minute, I just got here." And but when we was getting ready to leave, we were getting ready to leave. I'm noticing because I used to listen to G. Gordon Liddy a lot.
Oh, he was tremendous. Yeah.
And yeah, and his son, he used to brag about his son being a Navy SEAL. Sure enough, his son's on my ship when we deploy, and I
He was,
never said anything because he already described him. All I had to hear was them call his name, Lieutenant Commander Liddy. I'm like, oh my goodness, he's on my ship. But that experience was the one because I got the when we went ashore on the into Israel, I seen the bombed out buildings. I seen the rebel. I was like, are we in a war zone? And are we safe? We in this bus going to a soccer field to play football. Are we safe where we at? And they were like, no, we're safe right now. But yeah, like you said, it's an experience, and it opened up the Bible even more to me.
oh, yes, yes.
You know,
No doubt about it. And, when you're in Israel, as you know, it comes alive. The Bible comes
yeah,
alive. Plus, it's the Spirit of God living in you that really just shows you how special that place is. I've been
yes,
many times and love it. And every time I go, and I tell people, and you can relate to this, it's probably one of the safest places in the world, especially if the Lord sends you. If the Lord sends you, you'll feel safer there than you will in your own home anywhere
they're
in
act-
America. It's
they're
incredible.
actually they're actually telling Jews that the safest place on the planet is Israel for them. That's
Yeah,
what they're actually telling.
if you're sent and covered, I mean, look at all the rockets and missiles that have been fired at Israel. And, tragically, 20, 30 people have lost their life and a couple thousand have been injured, but it could have been so much worse. And that's supernatural. I mean,
Hmm.
rockets, missiles, and drones. And so, yeah, it's God's covenant land. It's His special land and His chosen people. I mean, we've as Christians we've been given that opportunity to be grafted in, and God is He doesn't sleep or slumber when it comes to His people and His country and His land. So we have a front row seat. We're just really blessed to have an opportunity to be watching this and understanding it.
Bill, can I ask you a question?
Sure, Kenny.
Um, when you are in Israel, do you feel an anointing there that you don't feel in other places when you're in other places?
I do. I do. And I think what's there's a lot of potential, just a lot of stuff going on. You can be distracted, but you really have to. I love the wall. I love going down the Western Wall, and when I get there, that's when I really feel it. Probably more so than of course, Sea of Galilee too. I love being up in the Capernaum and in that area. Bethlehem is different. It's not quite the same, but I love being at the Western Wall, and I definitely feel the anointing, and I definitely feel God's presence in a very special way. And of course, Sea of Galilee for sure. All the amazing places that Jesus ministered there. But yes,
Because I was just at this thing that America Reads the Bible at the Museum of the Bible. I was there
yeah,
on Saturday. I spent the entire day there on Saturday.
yeah,
And I blew far more money than I budgeted for, but I don't care. Um,
wonderful.
but the
Glad
thing
you
that
did
I felt is that number one, I feel an anointing. I felt an anointing when I came into the place. I saw the
that.
Dead Sea Scrolls exhibit, took God knows how many pictures of it, and but I did a project this week at this church, installing a projector and a screen, and I did not feel an anointing there. It was like, they had this a pride thing out front and whatnot, right? And it was like it was as if the Lord was saying, "I've removed my candlestick from this place,"
Yeah.
and I just did not feel His presence there at all.
Museum of the Bible is a very special place for many, many reasons, and all the things they've done, the wonderful people, the Greens that help fund it, the people that work there, the staff that works there. It is anointed. They have big prayer events there. My good friend Bunny from Dallas told me that vision on a flight back. We were at the inauguration prayer breakfast, and she told me that vision last January, and I go, "Wow, Bunny, that's a big undertaking, plus the cost and everything else to pull it together." But she did, and it ended up being a great success. Even President Trump was even part of it. So I think it was just a great event, and the Museum of the Bible is being used in a very special way. I couldn't believe how much they had to pay for that building when they bought it years ago when I was in Washington. But
How much did they pay for it?
I was thinking it was about 400 million.
Wow.
I think it was about that. I mean, you could. They bought it from I'm not sure. I think it was a government, or I can't remember 100%. But yeah, I think it was somewhere in that range, and they put a lot into it. But it was a lot. It's expensive real estate, great location, property. It's great location. So they have a tremendous amount of money in there, and I give the Greens who have Hobby Lobby and Mardel Christian Bookstore that had the faith to do this, and it's been. And I think the traffic's back up. COVID hit them pretty hard because a lot of people just weren't traveling. They weren't traveling, but I think they've been able to reestablish and hopefully have more people now than ever before attend that amazing museum.
Wow. Pastor Damon, you got anything?
Well, sure. Thank you again, Bill, for coming on with us tonight, and
Thank you,
I
brother.
appreciate Kung Fu and Kevin inviting me on. The Museum of the Bible is definitely one of those special places for us. I think we went twice, and within about 6 months, we just couldn't stay away from it.
Yeah.
And our favorite, of course, our favorite thing is seeing taking that little ride that kind of shows you all the monuments and the inscriptions and the Bible scripture verses that are written on them and all these things. It's wonderful. But I wanted to ask you something about Israel. Are you starting to hear any inside talk about that cornerstone for the wall being laid?
Well, I've been following that closely, gosh, since I think I began this process 25 plus years ago. And there was a guy named Gershon Solomon that used to, come to the U.S. from time to time, and he supposedly had the cornerstone. And he's passed, as far as I know, and it's there somewhere. They've got
Wow.
they got the utensils. If you go to the Temple Mount Institute there in the Old City in the Jewish Quarter, they have all the utensils they need. I have some friends that have been involved in bringing the red heifer to Israel. They've got a couple there in Shiloh. I don't know the status right now. You have to have. I mean, it has to be like perfect red heifer. They've had a couple over the years that have developed some white hairs that have disqualified them. So and they also have a place that they plan to do the sacrifice of the red heifer. They just need the ashes of one. So and even
Yeah.
I was talking to some Orthodox friends of mine in Israel last year, and they believe that President Trump is aware of the Third Temple and the importance of the Third Temple. When I say aware, they were real pleased with the meetings they had at the White House with some of the people, the faith people, and that was one of their requests, that somehow or another Israel is going to be able to have some kind of access beyond the access they have right now, possibly in the future for a Third Temple. There's a lot of different. It's a 35 acres, as Hal Lindsey used to say, the most valuable real estate in the entire world, the most contentious as well, with that big dome on the rock there, and the Alaska Mosque. But
Yeah.
it's ground zero. I mean, this is ground zero.
Yeah.
I think it is. I've heard so much more about it the last year and a half about a Third Temple and everything necessary for that in literally the last year and a half than I have for 25 plus years. So,
Yeah.
and I even watched something this morning that some people think that'll be part of the negotiations.
Really?
Yeah. Pre-Daniel
And I,
927.
Wow. And I apologize for saying chief cornerstone of the wall. I meant the temple. I meant all this traffic. So,
Yeah,
but go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
cornerstone, yeah, for the third temple. So yes,
Yeah.
and some people think the whole thing has to be built, and some people believe that part of it is sufficient. So I'll leave that up to the archaeologists and the peacemakers. But nonetheless, there's some land, even I think it's just kind of northeast of the Dome of the Rock, that it might be satisfactory with that dome still being there. I just don't know what God's plan is, but they have their eyes on some land in there,
Uh-huh.
about 45 acres. So we'll see how that plays out. But gosh, I hear a lot more about it now. I'm sure you guys do too, in the last year and a half than I have for many years. It's exciting as well.
That's amazing because I didn't know the stone was already prepared.
Yeah, the cornerstone. It was a Gershon Solomon. He used to come to the U.S. a lot, and he supposedly had it. He tried to even take it up there, I think, a couple times in his truck, if memory serves me correctly. But that was down around the time of Bush, when George Bush or George W. Bush was in office.
Hmm.
It talked about it even before that, but nonetheless, I'm not sure what the status is now. But it's very significant. The fact that all
Wow.
the utensils. I mean, the Institute's Chaim Richmond, the rabbi there, says they have everything they need. So
Wow. Man, it's
yeah, so
amazing. Thank you.
that's big.
Anything
So
else, Kevin?
where do you think this thing is leading to? All right. Let me say this. I think that I wrote this as a paper. I don't know. I know I sent it to you. I don't know whether you got a chance to read it or not. But in the Western world, when we are in warfare, when one nation is wins, okay. Lord Cornwallis, for instance, he sent. They actually surrender their sword. Okay, Lord Cornwallis could not even bear to surrender his sword in person, so he sent an aide with it to give it to George Washington. Whereas Lee surrendered his personally to Grant. In Western warfare, that is the sign that the war is over. Whereas in Islamic nations, they never surrender the sword. They they say that they are fighting for the honor and glory of Allah, and if they ever surrender the sword, then Allah has lost, and they can't say that Allah has lost. They can't say that Allah has lost to the God of the Christians and the Jews. We can't couch our warfare as a religious war, but they are always couching their warfare as a religious war.
Hmm.
It,
It's
where do you think that we are in this thing? I don't think that Iran will ever quote surrender the sword. I just don't think that they will.
that they will be the last to do that.
Yeah.
If they do that. Yeah, and so if they aren't going to, what does that mean? What will happen? And
I
you've got the IRGC, and you got the politicians. So you have the politicians going over and doing the negotiating in Pakistan, Islamabad, and then you would basically taking orders from the IRGC. And then when they get back to Iran, the public line is by the IRGC. It's the military, and that's the one that has more power and influence. There's two or three groups, and a fourth group would be whoever would represent the 75, 80% of Iran. And I don't see how regime change will work, because the other 10 or 15% control everything. They control business, all forms of commerce, ministry, military. So how do you disengage them after they've been in control for all these years? And
kill them all. That's how you disengage them. You put them all in a hole in the ground.
well, it is
Yeah.
what happened. And yeah, that sounds a little bit easy, Kevin. But these are different cats, or different folks. I should put it
Yeah.
that way.
Well, I'm pretty
Um,
sure the Mossad knows where each one of them is 24 hours a day.
Speaking of that, what happened is Iran was amazed how fast Saddam and his military was taken down. Amazed. So they said, we're going to be in a conflict with the U.S. or Israel one day. We have to spread out that influence, a mosaic. So they basically cut the country into 30 or 34 or 35 sections where they have leaders and officials, government, military people in all those different sections. So the Mossad, when they hit them hard in last year and hit them hard again, they took out a lot of people in those sections. They didn't know Mossad was so entrenched within Iran. So that was the brilliance and the masterfulness of this effort, because they knew they were doing that. They were spreading out so much, so you can't take down you take down Saddam and his military, or like what El Sisi did in Egypt, you took down the Muslim Brotherhood. They figured, El Sisi says there's millions of Muslim Brotherhoods in Egypt, but we need to take down the leadership, the political, and also the religious. And if we take them and about 134 people down, they won't be able to operate. And that's what happened. They threw the president of Egypt, Morsi, in jail. The religious leader, Beatty, they threw him in jail, and the top people. And all of a sudden, they couldn't function. General El Sisi took over.
Wow.
It was masterful. But that can't. And so here's Iran. They saw what happened in Iraq. They saw what happened in Egypt, and they say, okay, well, we better plan differently. And so they're spread out. Plus, I saw a few years ago, any contract 10 million plus in Iran, it's IRGC benefit. People associated with the IRGC, they have all those contracts, all the deals, all the money, all the security apparatus. They have ears all over Iran. They hear someone that's going to it's going to challenge that government. Next thing you know, they're being hung in the public square or shot in the public square, or just shot. Period. Mm-hmm. So they're brutal, and you look at all these wonderful young Iranian, Persian people that have been slaughtered. I mean, it's just appalling. So I think that's the big challenge right now, is how far will Iran go before they surrender? Only God knows if they will. They might. Yeah. I don't know, but the plan right now is to choke them financially by stopping the 35 or 40 ships so far. They're almost out of capacity. They're using old ships right now to put the petroleum. They've almost hit their capacity in storage, and also in old ships where they aren't going to be able to put it anywhere. That could shut down their oil and gas business, or shut it down. They have a lot in these ships, but the ships can't go anywhere. So it's quite a lot of leverage right now. We'll see what happens, but that's the plan.
I've got an idea. I actually wrote it to you, but I've got an idea. Why don't we just take those ships and whatnot, right, that they've got full of oil? We've got more than enough Navy commanders and captains and whatnot, right, and just bring them over here and let them refill up our strategic oil reserve with their oil.
Great plan.
Say again?
It's a great plan.
And we don't pay them for it. We count that as I'm not saying that somebody has a ledger, but I'm pretty sure that somebody can create one that for every life that has been lost, because of Iran for the last 40 something years, then we say, okay, we're subtracting $20 million for that life, starting with Daniel Pearl. and we go all the way up through 9/11 and everything else and whatnot, right? And say, and for every salary of every soldier that we've had to go over there, and we just take their oil and refill our strategic oil reserve, because God knows that Biden went and depleted it to what, about a third of what we
Yeah,
have right now.
quite a bit. Yeah, yeah. That's a good question. Probably in that range, a third, half, probably a third.
And so that, as I said, I don't have any mechanism to be able to get that idea up and, up to anybody that would actually be able to say, hey, this is a great idea. Why don't we do this? We take our military and we just bring their ships over here and refill our strategic oil reserve.
Yeah,
We need it anyway.
I would think they have considered that, but I don't know, Kevin. I don't know. I would think, what are we going to do with all these ships sitting out there with all that oil? Maybe they
That's
do.
what we could do with it.
It is. Sounds easy, but then they got to take those tankers a long ways.
Oh,
Uh,
uh, what
Interesting.
what what about the ships that basically came to the U.S. to get oil? What do you?
I think it was over 100, and I think it was interesting about the timing of us going into Venezuela to take Maduro down. That opened up. Trump said that they've taken in over 100 million barrels of oil from Venezuela into Houston. So it's a different type of crude. It's heavy crude, and it requires a specific kind of refinery, and we have that in Texas, in Houston, and Corpus Christi. So, and it's similar to what they have up in Canada. It's a heavier grade. So, I mean, Venezuela has the largest reserves in the world, and they also are a big supplier of China, which is interesting as well. So, 100 million so far, and I think Trump said another 100 million is coming. So, and I think he said over 100 ships have actually come in, refueled, and taken their oil to Japan, Korea, and possibly even China. They need the oil because the majority of their oil comes from the Middle East. 90% of Iran's oil goes to China.
Mm.
So we're squeezing China in the middle of all this since we grabbed Maduro and since Iran can't send theirs to China, and so we're squeezing China also.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the White House is being careful how they do that. They have infiltrated America, and they have access to some of our power grid. My friend here that was with the NSA would know. They're very shrewd, very sharp, and have. I know that the White House is staying in touch with them, but China has billions of dollars that have been invested in Iran, and it's also that whole area is important for their Silk Road initiative. So
Right.
but we can't underestimate China. And we've heard they have some very sophisticated hypersonic missiles. That's what they're developing right now. That can take an aircraft carrier down. They're preparing those, and also they are using some satellite capability to warn Iran where the ships are, and also supposedly they've been able to give information to Iran on our existing military bases in the Middle East. So they're very formidable, and they also have, again, a tremendous amount of money invested in the Middle East, especially with Iran, 40 billion plus, and they have a big plan too, and they're very patient, very strategic, and they have a plan. So we're having to handle that quite carefully.
What is the Silk Road Initiative? You just mentioned that in passing.
Well, there is eventually, I think it's the northern part of Iran through Turkey, and I don't know the exact route, but it's a trade route, and I don't know all the details, but it's going to move products from China through these other countries to Europe, and they've been putting this in place for a long time. And they're looking at an alternative. Actually, what Israel's thinking about doing, especially with oil, is trying to, because there's 7 million barrels a day that crosses Saudi Arabia into the Red Sea. And the idea is to bring a pipeline through Eilat and then Ashdod, Ashkelon, and bring that to Europe. And that way they wouldn't have to go through the Red Sea or even the Suez Canal. They could just take it out by pipeline. I mean, they were already moving 7 million barrels a day across Saudi Arabia. If they can get it, and they trust Israel, if they can get it through Israel, it'd be a very inexpensive way to get it to Europe, and not have to worry about the Persian Gulf or Strait of Hormuz, which is the reason they did it in the first place. But what's interesting in Saudi Arabia, 95% of the refineries of Saudi Arabia are in the northeast corner of the country, right near the Persian Gulf. So they're very vulnerable, and I've heard that a majority of the people that live near the refineries are Shiites, which are very pro-Iran. So it's kind of complicated, but they've taken a couple shots at that pipeline. It knocked off 70 to 100,000 barrels a day, maybe more than that. They had to shut it down shortly to repair it. But right now, Saudis are able to move 7 million barrels a day into the Red Sea. But the Houthis have been talking about, if they really get into a conflict with Iran, they'll do what they can to shut that down. So right now, it's kind of a wait and see. I think the Sunni countries were surprised that they were getting hit by missiles and drones and rockets. And I don't think they expected that. But they were going after refineries and also desalinization plants, where 75 to 95% of the drinking water of those countries that border the Persian Gulf come from desalinization. And you take out of some of those big facilities, all of a sudden you get a lot of people without drinking water. So these are some of the pieces on the chessboard, and that's calmed down since negotiations have started. The question is, will Iran? I guess if Israel and the United States start hitting again, then the drones and missiles will start flying out of Iran again. They still have drones and missiles. And the other thing is they have these speedboats that they basically can hide, and they can create a lot of havoc for ships. So that's been we haven't taken them out. I thought we would, but I think we're being careful with that. But we did bring the A-10 Warthog plane in. That's a special plane that can take out those speedboats as well as helicopters. So we have the helicopters and the A-10s in the Persian Gulf region. They can take out those speedboats, and they haven't used them to that degree yet. But that was the Warthog is a very unique plane. It was used quite effectively in Iraq during the wars.
Wow.
So there's a lot of pieces on the chessboard.
Part of the prophecy in Ezekiel 38 says that I will put a hook in your jaw and bring you about to bring what is it, Russia? I guess we're going to call it Russia, Gog of the land of Magog. Says that I will put a hook in your jaw and bring you about, and then it gives the list of all the nations and whatnot, right? And Persia was first on the list. And so I wonder, even though I don't think that Ezekiel 38 is in play right now, I don't know if they could actually do regime change. Well, I think that the IRGC would probably be the hook in the jaw of Russia.
I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play. We're really watching Erdogan in Turkey too. The late Chuck Missler would always say, "Keep an eye on Turkey." And I have a friend from Belgium. He's Greek, and he is a PhD nuclear scientist. He really thinks Erdogan's going to be the major player of the Gog Magog. I mean, he studied Erdogan. He studied, the Greek in the Bible, and he's done a lot of history on Erdogan and his family history. And he thinks that they're going to be a very significant final day player, Turkey. Even Erdogan with his background, his genealogy. So, Iran and Turkey don't get along very well, but they get along when it comes to money, and they do a lot of business together. They even had a couple missiles just missed hitting Turkey. So, they kind of put up with each other. But Erdogan's the one to keep an eye on. I think even more so than Putin.
Is Erdogan Sunni or is he Shiite?
Well, he's Sunni as far as I know. I mean, he was a big backer of the Muslim Brotherhood, which are Sunnis. So
Okay.
he envisions himself as being the guy, the major Sunni Muslim Brotherhood leader. I mean, he was really behind the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt before El Sisi overthrew him. He was working with the Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan to overthrow King Abdullah, and also eventually he and his people that he have in Syria right now are very pro-Turkey. So yeah, he's somebody to watch. So we have the Sunnis, which is 80% of Islam, and then we have 20%, which is the Shiites.
Didn't you say once that the King Abdullah in Jordan has lineage that goes all the way back to Muhammad? Is that correct or is that
I
incorrect?
haven't said that, but I've heard that. Yeah, I've
Okay.
definitely heard that. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so that's interesting in itself. But he's very pro-West. That really literally is the Palestinian state. The majority of the Jordanians are Palestinians. So if you want a Palestinian state, that's it. It's there.
Well, rather than giving them a Palestinian state, you already have one.
You already have
The
one.
name of it is Jordan.
That's right. But they don't
Wow.
want that. But what's interesting is during negotiations, King Abdullah from Jordan said that whatever deal that they cut with Israel, they want a buffer between Israel and Jordan. They didn't want Hamas to have any kind of access or bordering Jordan. It says a lot in itself.
Right.
So they did not want, they have appreciated Israel being on their border and providing a lot of important intelligence. But they did not want a future Palestinian state bordering Jordan. They just didn't trust him. The other thing is you have Hamas, which is based out of Gaza, and then you have Fatah, which is Abbas's party. That's in Judea and Samaria, mostly Samaria, and where Ramallah is. And after the 2005 disengagement plan, when 9,500 Jews were evicted from their homes in Gaza, in 24 settlements, four settlements in Samaria, Netanyahu is saying, when we move out of there, the rockets will rain down on our cities. Sharon wanted to move the 15,000 troops out of there to deploy them to other parts of Israel. And 2006, they had a civil war between Fatah and Hamas. And it was so brutal that some of the media people were covering, they couldn't take it anymore. They saw Hamas people throwing Fatah members off buildings. Very brutal, very brutal. And so the Hamas and Fatah don't get along very well in many ways after that civil war. I mean, you got Fatah, and in some ways you're surprised that they haven't been an uprising with them in Samaria or in Judea since October 7, 2023. So part of that is just the bad blood between Hamas and Fatah, both Palestinians.
Well, when you did eye to eye, one of the things that you did in eye to eye, I think, was when Israel took out that entire section. What was it that happened that we didn't have any leadership or something like that for that period of time? I forget exactly how it goes.
What, as far as in 2005 in Gaza?
I think so. I'm not quite sure.
Well, what happened is Bush and Sharon agreed to a two-state plan. And matter of fact, George Bush agreed with Crown Prince Abdullah of Saudi Arabia on the two-state plan. They were negotiating that in 2001. They finished the work on 9/10/2001 on a two-state plan. They worked 17 days on it, and the next day, Or that night, Prince Bandar from Saudi Arabia was in his mansion in McLean, Virginia, celebrating this incredible two-state plan that Bush or Colin Powell were going to introduce at the UN in a couple of weeks. But they finished on 9/10, and then 9/11 happened. And when I speak to audiences, I said, the God of Israel did not produce the evil of 9/11, but he did not stop it.
That's right.
He did not stop it. And they eventually, finally got the plan out. They kept trying to release it, and something would happen in Israel, suicide bombing or something. They finally just did it. One day they just went out to the Rose Garden, didn't tell anybody they're going to introduce it. And on June 24, 2002, they introduced the two-state plan. Bush never got over 9/11, and he never ever got over Katrina, which began right after the last Jew was evicted from their home. He celebrated with Sharon, and within 6 hours and a couple hours later, Hurricane Katrina developed near the Bahamas.
That's
The
right.
most costly storm in U.S. history. Immediately after the final Jew was evicted from their home. In 34 days straight, for you guys back in Virginia, in Maryland, when I was back in that area, living in the area, for 34 straight days, the Baltimore Sun, the Washington Post, and the Washington Times, front page news was Katrina. That's how bad it was. 34 straight days. It was front page news. And Israelis were distributed all over the country. They didn't take care of them. 34 states took in refugees from the southern Gulf Coast.
Louisiana. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, 34 states. And in a parallel, I mean, the same language being used by the newspapers in Israel were the same language being used by the newspapers in the U.S., the parallels.
So tell the story about when Trump unveiled his plan and put that, just what was it, before COVID and after COVID? I forget what the date was.
It was January 28, 2020. He introduced his two-state plan that Kushner had been working on. And I say this to audiences frequently, no president did more for Israel than Trump combined. Moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, sovereignty over the Golan Heights, got out of the Iran nuclear deal, defended Israel at the International Criminal Courts. Just amazing, great friend. But Kushner really pushed his peace plan. We tried to get him to stop and never get there, but finally he delivered a two-state plan, even with a map. Within 1 hour of the map and the plan being introduced, there were earthquake shook the Miami financial district, a 7.7. Usually it came in at a 7.3. They usually drop once they come in hot. They drop it, but this one went 7.3, and they moved it up to a 7.7. God's perfect number. And then Peter Navarro, the White House trade negotiator, warned Fauci, Azar, the health secretary, and the chief of staff, Mulvaney, that there was going to be a pandemic coming called coronavirus. It was going to cost 1 million lives and $3.5 trillion, and it needed to be addressed then. They laughed him off within a few hours of Trump introducing his plan. Navarro put this warning into a memo the next day and gave it to the White House, and they really started focusing on the coronavirus pandemic. Within 24 to 48 hours, every major leader in the world said, no, we have our own two-state plan. Trump has his, we have ours. And within 6 weeks, we had 3 billion people in the world in lockdown because of coronavirus.
Yep.
Unbelievable timing. I wrote a commentary, Life in America before Trump introduced his plan he was under so much favor. And then after, difficult COVID, vote by mail, a stolen election, and Biden was declared the next president. Despite the fact 4 or 5 states, very likely Trump won, which he did the next time he ran. He pretty much a landslide in those states. So I talked to his chief of staff, Mark Meadows. I said, Mark, why did you guys do that? I mean, it's a two-state plan. You're talking about creating a Palestinian state in Judea and Samaria. He said, oh, we never thought they'd take it anyhow. Well, I said, Mark, it doesn't matter. You kept the narrative going. And then they had the Abraham Accords that summer, September 15, 2020, with Bahrain, the Emirates, Israel, and and the United States. And within a few hours, a hurricane slammed into the southern Gulf Coast right after the signing of the White House lawn. That was called Hurricane Sally. Sally in Hebrew is Sarah. So in other words, Hurricane Sarah was slamming into the southern Gulf Coast.
Yes.
Right after Abraham Accord was signed. I mean, that could have been
Wow.
called one of her names. It was a message. It was a telegram from the Lord. That land is for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, and their descendants, not Hagar and Ishmael.
Wow. Wow.
Within a few hours. It was a 12 o'clock Eastern time signing, and that evening, Hurricane Sally / Sarah slammed into the southern Gulf Coast. In 72
What
hours.
do you actually think of the Abraham Accords? I'm just curious.
I don't favor them because it continued the two-state narrative. It continued,
Yeah.
and the main reason it was agreed to because they were trying to stop Israel annexing the 134 Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria. They were attempting to annex it, and that, or I prefer calling it extension of sovereignty over their own land. But that was the big reason that they agreed to it, to stop that. And a couple weeks later at the UN, all the people that backed the Abraham Accords from the Middle East said they did it to stop Israel doing that extension of sovereignty or annexation. So it continued the narrative. There was no actual land that was done, but it brought the UN resolutions back to the forefront. It dealt with the land of Israel, and also the Saudi plan of 2002 was brought back to the table. And the other thing is, we did an open letter to the president last July, and it was saying, Abraham Accords, that's fine if you want to do a peace deal between Israel and its neighbors, but don't have any of the covenant land of Genesis 15:18 included. In other words, no land can transfer to be part of the Abraham Accords. And we put an open letter together on that. So,
Who is we?
a lot of people. Well, we had it up on our website, Kevin, and we had a lot of people. We had a lot of people sign it. My wife and I and a couple people drafted it. She did a great job of drafting a letter, and then we just had people on our website sign the letter. So we had a lot of people sign it. Got it to the White House.
Did they pay any attention to it?
I think our reaction is a thank you. This is very well written.
Basically, they didn't pay attention to
Yeah, oh, they had to be careful. They go, thank you. This is very well done, very well written. We hear you. These are some of the top advisors. I mean, not everybody in the White House is pro-Israel. There's a wing there that's not as much as President Trump and others. Marco Rubio, Hegseth, very pro-Israel, and then there's other people that aren't as pro-Israel.
Well, Kushner's Jewish. Is he pro-Israel?
Well, I'd say he's pro-Israel, but he's got a big, grandiose plan. And I'll put it this way. I think it's a brilliant plan, but the plan has to do with covenant land in Gaza and possibly Judea and Samaria. The plan is really a way to bring peace to the Middle East. It might lead up to that final peace deal, Daniel. It might. So it's a very, very interesting plan. And it would even include that, as far as I know, because he has a good relationship with the Saudis, to bring that pipeline through Elad, Ashdod, and Ashkelon area. So, yeah, I think it's a good plan, and that's part of this new group of the peace group that he's put together to keep it outside the UN, where that can be public and political and business leaders, not necessarily the United Nations or someone mandating it. This peace group.
you mentioned when Kevin mentioned Kushner, that's where I was going at. um, as far as like he said, him being Jewish. Does he give you signs of maybe being that being that one person that could
Well,
probably deceive everybody?
I think he will not be the guy, but I think he and the efforts that are being done now will lead up to that guy. They will put a
You're
lot
talking about the false, Carl. Are you talking about the false prophet?
No, not the false
or the
prophet,
Antichrist.
the Antichrist himself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we'll have some type and shadows of that person, but I think I think his role, unbeknown to him, is to bring this together that will lead to that Daniel 9:27 covenant. I think their efforts, unbeknown to them, will lead up to that final biblical covenant in Daniel 9:27. So I think he has a very significant role from that perspective. He and Witkoff, especially him.
Yeah.
When we took out the entire city of Dresden in World War II, it took over 40 years to clear it out. Well, no, it took over 30 years. I saw pictures of what, like if you look at the movie The Pianist, it
Wow.
shows Dresden at the very end. And from say 1945, it took until the last group dealing with the removal of all the rubble from Dresden was like 1972. So we're talking about almost 30 something years. And Gaza's a lot bigger than Dresden. How long, could that actually be done? I mean, granted, we've got more modern stuff, but where in the world would they put all of that stuff? I mean, we're talking about the size of what, about the state of Rhode Island
No,
that
I don't
is
think so.
nothing but rubble at this point.
And there's rubble everywhere. I mean, there's rubble there. There's rubble in Beirut. There's rubble in Iran. And I just don't. I don't see it ever getting done. There's a lot of ways. I mean, you got real estate developers, Trump and others that he's associated with that could get after it. But I haven't been to Gaza. I've been to the southern Gaza when the Jewish people lived there. I was there in the 24 settlement just before they were evicted. But, you know, I don't, I mean, who knows how long it would take? I've heard 20 years. But
Mhm.
even then, I mean, will we still be here in 20? I don't know. Only God knows. But there's so many things that are coming together right now. Will we even get to that 20 years? But that's one thing I'd heard. It would take about 20 years to clean that up and develop it. But that's without the adversity of Hamas or with them still being there. They're not going to give it up. I mean, I understand they're back up to about 65,000 troops. I don't know if
Wow.
that's, I've heard that. And that was in Jerusalem Post a couple of weeks ago. So they are
By
at a,
then, Trump would be 100. Talk about,
yeah,
by then, Trump would
I
be
don't,
100 years old.
yeah, he must be ahead of that peace commission until he passes. But I mean, he doesn't look like many 80-year-olds. It's amazing. You look at him at the Jimmy Carter's funeral next to Bill Clinton and George Bush. I mean,
Right.
those guys look, those guys look, I mean, look at Trump. He's sitting over there laughing with Obama. I mean, the guy, I mean, and Clinton and Bush look like they look their age. Trump, I
Wow.
mean,
Yeah.
look what this guy goes through on a daily basis. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. It's pretty amazing, his resilience. I'll never forget the day that when they were doing the hearings there, on one of the congressional impeachment hearings, and Trump just looked so relaxed. He was on the way to the golf course, and the guys that were putting him through it looked really bad. Mueller looked horrible when he was testifying. I mean, it looked like he did not look very healthy. He did not look very good. Trump's jumping on Marine One to go play golf. I mean, it's just a unique guy for this time.
Yeah.
Amazing, it is. But
Rush Limbaugh's grandfather lived to be 103 years old, and at 100 years old, he was still actively taking cases as a lawyer. Just
Wow.
Yeah, just I'm looking at Trump. Saying to myself, okay, maybe Melania is keeping him young because he only sleeps like maybe 4 or 5 hours a night. I mean, just
Yeah.
he's
Well,
always
people get
up
that
doing
little sleep
something.
look like they get that little sleep. He doesn't. Yeah, most
And
people
look,
that get very little sleep look like they get very little sleep, but
they sure enough get enough of those little nap shots of him now. Look at him, he's sleeping. That's because he's
it's
working.
amazing.
He's done
Yeah,
more.
every once in a while he naps in a cabinet
Yeah.
meeting. Well, and just think of the pressure and stress he goes through on a daily basis. I mean, my gosh, his schedule's unbelievable. He's always got, no one, we've had no president with the press availability. He's wearing out the press. The guys that I work with, they're worn out. They can't keep up with the guy.
Wow.
He's 24/7 news, even when he's getting his 4 or 5 hours of sleep.
Were you there on Saturday night at the correspondence dinner?
I've been there before, but we were watching it. My wife and I were watching it, and it was amazing, Kevin, when we watched it. But let me put a plug in for our websites. It's William Koenig, William KOENIG.com. Tony and I write weekly commentary, 2 or 3, and then I do a weekly news report that comes out every Friday. And we have cutting edge, biblically important, significant news, and we also have watch.org, WATCH.org. That's our other news site. But our commentaries on WilliamKoenig.com or Koenig.com, however you want to pronounce it. So I encourage you guys. We're on the front line. We've been watchmen for a long time. I've known Kevin for quite a while, and we're just our whole goal is to report on the biblical significance of the news that's taking place. But we can't, as I said in the beginning of the program, we can't forget the souls in our family and whoever the Lord puts in front of us to pray for, that they will come to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And also that you are sensitive to the Spirit as well as me. When God puts someone next to you that needs Jesus, talk to them.
Yes.
And may God use us all, because he gave us, we're a small part of the church that understands the biblical significance. Thank God we do. We know Genesis to Revelation is the Word of God, but we're born again. And that's what's important, because the people that are not born again take out prophecy. The 27%, they forget it has no relevance. But we understand it. So, number one, we're super blessed that we are born again. We have God's promises through the blood of Jesus at the cross. And at the same time, too, he gave us this sensitivity to the times to use us. So we got to stay active till he comes. And that's what we do as watchmen, keeping our brothers and sisters informed on the significance of the times we're living in, to help people better understand what's happening. Because a lot of people, as you guys know, they are confused with what's going on. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
They've moved away from the Judeo-Christian values that we've all grown up with. That's the difference maker. And we have people, unfortunately, in our country today that live in that Isaiah 5:20 moment. Woe to those that call evil good and good evil. And we're seeing that in our country, in the division that we have in our country. Those that follow the biblical Judeo-Christian values and those that don't. And that's something else for us to pray about. But we just have to stay bold, tell it like it is, point people to the truth. Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, whoever God puts in front of you, give them the truth. And the truth's in the Word of God. It's life. It's a life changer and transforming. It's His transforming Word.
Plug your 2 books.
Yes.
Thank you. My first book, Eye to Eye, Facing the Consequences of Dividing Israel. And what happens in America the same day or within 24 hours when we apply pressure on Israel. I also study every American president back to Woodrow Wilson and those that blessed Israel and those who did not. I also document those Middle East leaders that came against Israel and their untimely deaths, how God removed them. And also even some of the political leaders in Israel, when they went along with the 2-state plan, they their governments collapsed or they were removed. So it's powerful. And then also I wrote a book, Revealed: Obama's Legacy. These are my observations when I was at the White House. People appreciated a lot of that because they didn't get it through the media, through the press. And in my last chapter, I really focus on him repenting for these things that he gave. God used Barack Obama in a very unique way, accelerating final day events. As all our presidents, every president, back to Woodrow Wilson, who was part of the San Remo deal, our presidents have had a biblical role in bringing things to completion. That's been his
Yep.
plan.
Yep.
And Barack Obama's
Yep.
Iran nuclear deal brought us Trump, accelerated final day events. So, but I really, last chapter is really encouraging him to accept Jesus fully. He said was a believer, but he also talked about Islam a lot. So I really encourage him to be a born again, just like us, having to repent for things we've done daily. And so that's my other book, Revealed: Obama's Legacy. My first one, Eye to Eye, Facing the Consequences of Dividing Israel.
Okay, so you wrote a paper or a commentary that says life before before 2020 or
Life before January 28, 2020, and life after.
okay, where can that be found?
I'll send that to you, Kevin. It's on our website. It's kind of buried in an area of our website. Actually, okay. No. Okay, easy way to get. Okay, go to it's watch.org. I have in two places. Watch.org, and up at the top it says Eye to Eye. One of the things that go across the top, the different categories. Eye to Eye has all the events from 2017 throughout Trump's term, through Biden's term, through Trump's current term, and it's in there. That's where it is under watch.org, then Eye to Eye, and it documents. My book goes all the way from 1991 to 2017. The first major catastrophe of Trump, Hurricane Harvey, which is the second biggest event in history. His son-in-law was in 5 Arab countries. And then after that, I put everything up on the website, and that's where that is, Kevin.
Okay, because I do want our audience to be able to find it. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Is that behind the paywall, or is that where anybody can reach it?
no, anybody can. That is not. At watch.org, and then the category Eye to Eye, you'll see it up at the top, Eye to Eye category, and then just click on that, and then that has all the events, including that which would be 2020. It's in there.
Gotcha.
Life before January 28, 2020, and life after.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. We didn't kept you long enough, and man, you gave us a whole lot of information.
Well, thanks for your interest. I really appreciate it, Carol. Thank you so much. And Kevin, you're a treat. You're tenacious, and what an honor.
Well, I will see you at the conference in a few weeks anyway. What is it,
Yeah,
5 weeks from now?
Yeah, great.
So I will see you there. I'm looking forward to it. It's like I missed the one that they do in February. You know, that they do one in February. It's like the last one we've had was what? Now it's been over 6 months. You know, that was last October, and it's like, you know, I told Bob Urich, I said we need to have these definitely more often, not less. But he says it takes a lot of effort. He doesn't want to get old too soon to try to put these things together. But it's like with us as watchmen, you know, trying to pull together all the information from all the different sources. You know, that's the one place that we can pull all the information together from all the different sources. That's the one place where we can get it all.
Yeah.
Or get a good portion of it.
Yeah, he's done that for so long. You know, he's doing 2 or 3 events a year, and it is tough. I mean, I was there in February. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of effort. So, but they're doing more and more online through Prophecy Watchers. They're doing a great job there, Kevin. I think that's the alternative. Plus, what we do at our 2 sites. You know, there's and it's happening so fast. I mean, sometimes, I mean, what we give at a conference can be outdated in a couple months.
Yep.
So I think that's the other thing, of staying on top of things in real time.
Gotcha. Real quick, Pastor Damon, you got any last words?
Last word?
He reminds me of Jimmy D. Young. I watched a lot of Jimmy D. Young back in the day, man, and you know, there's one video he has out called "Presidents, Politics, and Prophecy," and he went back a few presidents, man, and he brought up aligning how every one of our presidents that he mentioned has lined us up for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. You know how he does that. So, and I've shared that with my church, man, because we do a lot of things concerning, you know, government and the Bible. So I appreciate you being on and sharing all this information.
Well, thank you. I used to do a Tuesday night event with Jimmy DeYoung at a Pre-Trib Research Center. We used to do it together, and that was priceless. I did it for about we started in 2001, and he and I were the Tuesday night news guys, and there was nobody like him.
Wow.
Man, if I could have heard you two guys together, that just I probably would have turned the table over.
It was good. We fed off each other rather well. You know, if we didn't agree with each other, we'd discuss it. It was priceless. It was priceless, but it was entertaining.
Good.
There's never been anybody like him. He's with the Lord now, so we thank him.
Yeah.
Kind comment.
All right. So, Kevin, you got any last comment before?
No, I've got a lot of comments, but they're definitely not last.
Mercy, I got to catch a flight.
All right, Bill. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully, this is the first of many. I would love to get you on, like say, every 3 or 4 months, if you don't mind that. There's just so much stuff going on, and you have such a unique perspective being in the White House press room.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hopefully there's stuff out of here that you can actually cut up and use on your on your thing that you do, like you did at the Prophecy Roundtable with Tom Hughes and Brendan Holthaus last week.
Yes. Well,
so
please send it to me, and we'll see what we can do with it for sure.
10-4. Definitely.
All right. Thank you, guys. Be blessed.
Thank you, sir. Do appreciate you. Definitely do appreciate you.
You bet, Kevin. See y'all soon.
See you.
All right. Bye-bye.